Hello and welcome. I'm Mike from VizAcademy and I'll be your teacher for upcoming lessons. Today we'll be going through some basics of 3ds Max user interface. Before we start, I'd like to show you something that will motivate and inspire you, and that is our homepage. So as you can see here, all these images were created by our students. We post them almost daily on our social media, so I would like to recommend you following us there. And as you can see, all these lovely images created by those guys were created by some people that started with almost zero experience in 3ds Max. Almost 70% of our students actually start with zero knowledge of 3ds Max or other 3D software. So we're really proud about the results we're getting. And now, while we are all motivated and inspired, let's move on to 3ds Max itself. So, as you can see, Max can be a little bit intimidating at first sight. So, all these buttons, all those icons can be really confusing. And I get it. I was confused myself for the first time I opened this program when I got it from a friend. Well, my reaction was like smashing some buttons by random chance. I've somehow managed to create a box. I got confused and I turned off this program for 14 days, didn't go back to any learning. And well, my starts were really rough because I didn't really have anybody to help me with it. And at this point, I can only say that this is not going to happen to any of you because we're here for you, and with help of VizAcademy, you'll get through it without any problem. And that's why, for the starters, we've created this simple image. So, as you can see, we have hidden almost every icon that we don't need in this program at the moment. So we have hidden all those animation, simulation, and whatnot rubbish that we don't need right now. And as you can see, we've left only the essentials that we're going to actually use in our work. So starting from left, we've got Q, and that is responsible for using the circling through the selection type, and starting from rectangular, we're going to go to circular, fence, lasso, then spray type. Each of those will be very handy when we'll be selecting objects. And right now, as you can see, when I'm pressing the Q, those change. And next on our list, we've got W, E, and R. Those are really important buttons, and I would like you to remember those shortcuts because we'll be using those a lot. W is toggle movement tool. Then we've got rotate selected and scale selected object. So when we create some box or any other object, when we press W, we've got this type of gizmo, and by holding each of those arrows, we're able to move our object in any direction that we choose. So same thing happens with rotation, and the gizmo looks a little bit different, but it has the same principle. When you grab the proper line or proper arrow, you can manipulate the object. And same principle goes to scaling, and you'll be able to both scale and rotate, as well as move in singular axis, or 2 at a time, or even 3 at a time, but we'll get into this in detail a little bit later. Next on our list, we've got snap selection, and This allows us to snap objects to one another. Depending on what we choose to actually snap to, we can snap objects from a vertex to vertex, or from a midpoint to a midpoint or vertex. That will really help us in scene creation and modeling of any object. So at this point, we're going to go just through the basics of those tools, because in future lessons we'll be going through those in detail. Next on our list we have A for angle snap toggle, and that is a really helpful tool that will help us with rotation. As you all know, you're probably going to work with architectural visualizations, and that requires some precision. So this allows us to set the intervals of rotation to 5 degrees at a time. So if we have this constraint turned off, you get values like those that you can see on the screen right now, and well, that's not really helpful for any architect. So we'll be using this tool a lot, and especially at the moment when we'll be setting up the scene, putting the furniture in or whatnot. By pressing T, I move to the top view. Next tool I would like to discuss with you is a mirror object. To demonstrate how it works, I'm going to go to Creation Panel, Geometry, Standard Primitives, and I'm going to select Teapot. So right now, when I have this pink teapot, what a lovely color. Now, by selecting this tool, we are welcomed by this pop-up dialog, which asks us what are we going to actually do. So right now I would like to create my next pink teapot that is let's say 50 centimeters, okay, 25, 10 centimeters, oh, all right, 6 centimeters away from my base mesh, and I selected the clone. At the clone section I selected copy. We could choose an instance or reference, and I'm going to go into details about every single option here in next lesson. Right now, as you can see, we've got the identical copy of our teapot, but but it's copied along the x-axis. Okay, so moving on, we've got a material editor, which is under a shortcut M. And here we're going to create all those fancy materials, or all those beautiful shaders that we're going to put on our objects. And that's a really helpful window. We're going to use it a lot, so please remember the shortcut M. And next we've got F10 for render setup. And we're not going to go into any details about this window at this point, but what is helpful is to remember F10. Here actually we can set up the render output, and we'll continue in the next episode. Okay, so as it goes with all professional software, F9 is actually compile, and in 3ds Max is actually render, so that's a type of finishing button. So we're going to press it, we're not going to press it for next 5 lessons or so, but it's going to be really important in the future. Okay, so we've got the top toolbar already behind us. Let's move on to the right side. Okay, so as you could see when I was creating the boxes and the teapot, I went to this creation panel. I've selected geometry, and here we've got all those options. So basically the creation panel consists of many sub-levels, which are shapes, lights, cameras, and junk. We're not going to touch those for a while, so let's not go to any details because I don't want to confuse you. Next, we've got modifiers panel. Here we can modify some basics of primitive objects or modifiers, and we're going to show you all those modifiers that we're going to use in the future in the next lesson. So here we've got hierarchy and then the utilities. Here we can set up the, in the hierarchy we can set up where is the gravity point, let's call it like this, of the object. So when we move it, it actually moves the object gizmo point, and that allows us to manipulate the objects in totally different way. Okay, so with this right sidebar behind us, let's move on to the camera manipulation tools, and those are Alt W for screen enlargement, viewport enlargement. And if you select an object and press Z, it actually zooms on this object and it anchors the camera around it. So if you press Alt and you press the mouse scroll, you can hover around this object and look at it from different angles. That's really helpful.